Hello guys, I'm Lee and welcome back to another episode of Bareham Engines. Right guys, before we go any further with updating you on the Cosworth block, this is the one that we put the insert in down the bottom where the drill had sort of wondered. Someone had drilled and tapped it a bit on the piss. If you watched the last video, many of you are probably thinking, who the hell would do that? Do you know what I mean? Make a mistake like that. Well, the answer is here, guys. Me. So you know my philosophy here, guys. Whether it be good, bad, a mistake, whether it be our fault, customer's fault, whatever. We're open, honest, truthful. People make mistakes and what have you. And yeah, I'm sort of, in a way, I'm owning up to this one. We've long studied this block, and one of the drills had sort of wandered down the bottom. Now there is a reason for that, so it's not like I've missed the process. The trouble is, the only thing you can do to put a pilot down there is put the clearance drill right down the bottom, because it's a nice big thick drill, and you can, it's a bit of a rough casting down the bottom. You know, bear in mind I've done hundreds of these long studs now, and never had an issue, to be honest with you. Don't get complacent, even if you've done it loads and loads of times, you know. Everything's a learning curve. But obviously with this one, as I explained the other day, there is like a sort of hardening spot, or a hardened spot down in the bottom of the casting. I've had it a couple of times before, but only a very, very minor amount, which doesn't really affect it at all. You can just feel it when you get that initial cut on the drill. But with this one, there was quite a big area. And in the end, I've had to sort of plug the hole that was drilled and tapped on the piss in cast iron, and we've had to start the process again. I've ended up having to put a slot drill down there, and the case hardening was about 1.5 mil thick, believe it or not. But yeah, so it was me that did it, guys. We're just going to go over now, and I'm going to explain to you whether the plug-in process worked, really. This job here is for a really good customer. He's also sort of become a friend of mine, so whatever happened with this, you know, I would not repair anything that I didn't think was going to work. This is going to be absolutely fine, I'm sure. It's a bit difficult with a job like this, because at the end of the day, this is a non-standard process we do, and the customer's aware of that. We're aware of that. Although we've attempted it, the customer sort of knows that it's a non-standard job. The casting is not really meant for this. It's just a process that we do, or have done on these Cosworth blocks, and other stuff. We do sort of modifications like this. You know, you may run into problems, so that's sort of what we had. But it's the end of the day, it's how you deal with it, whether you can rectify it or not. If not, you'll have to come to some other arrangement. But yeah, let's head over, guys, and see how that worked out. Right, guys, so it's the next day now. It's Tuesday. This is the 200 block, the one with the 6 long studs that have been done, and the one of them is drilled and tapped a bit on the piss. Now, what we did, if we just sort of recap, if you didn't watch Monday's video, we've had to put a plug down, a 12 by 1.75 plug down into the hole that's existing, and we've done that in cast iron. So I made a special sort of plug, the correct depth. And the reason I've done it in the cast iron is so it's the same material as the block. If we did it in a harder material, because we've got a drill and tap next to it, it's going to want to wander away from the harder material. So that's the reason we've done that. But if you look down there, guys, the lug on the right hand side doesn't matter at all. But that is the plug that I've put in there. So I put the cast iron plug in. It's a nice tight fit. Put it in with some 648 Loctite. And then you can see we've drilled and tapped next to it. Now, the problem we had with this is, well, I think the original problem was because there was a sort of a cold, chilled area that was, well, it ended up about 1.5 mil thick, almost like glass hard. So the drill, the sort of centre drill has wandered, and then the tapping drill has wandered even more. Now, when I've done these studs before, obviously I've done loads of these, you know I have, but I've had it before where it's got a little spot of sort of chilled hardening, and you can hear the drill, and it does go off centre very, very slightly. So when you tap it, you've got to sort of pull it back, and you know what's happened, because usually if we get a Oh no, we haven't got a long stud. If you wind a stud in there, it should wind in easy by hand if it's dead in line. But usually it's a little bit tight where it's sort of rubbing up the side. It's not enough to worry about. It's not sort of like this, but it's just isn't bang in the centre. But this one here, yeah, never seen one like that. So that was a big old area. So what I've done, plugged it. I've gone down with an end mill just to top the corner of the plug off down there. And then what I've had to do is obviously, because an end mill has got a hole up the middle, so you can't use that as a centre. But what I've had to do is order a slot drill, and I've gone down 1.5 mil through the hardening, and it sort of goes ching, 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 ching. You know, it's hot. You can tell it's hard, and then it breaks through it. So once I've done that, I've managed to go down with the tapping drill, which is this one, and then obviously the starter and the finishing tap. Wound a stud in there, and it goes in there absolutely perfect. Then what I've do is make a tube up, put over the stud, and I've torqued the stud up, done 30 foot-pounds of the stud in there, then we've torqued the nut up, and it's absolutely perfect. That isn't going anywhere. So yeah, like I say, managed to rescue that one, guys, but something definitely even for us to consider in the future. If it does sort of, you know, make a bit of a funny noise, maybe we'd go down with a slot drill or something to start with, and yeah, make sure that is central. But yeah, learning curve, guys, but at least we've managed to sort this. Right, so just had a bit of an interesting one. We have skimmed hundreds of flywheels in the past, but never had one like this. So when it come in, it's got little lugs on the side that sort of sit up here with threaded studs out the top. And I thought, well, all you got to do is just get the studs out. The studs are obviously there in being used instead of bolts, so it uses a stud and nut to hold the clutch on. So it's in effect a step flywheel. First of all, it was, you know, it's quite a thin flywheel. You can see the back it's quite a light flywheel, so it gets very, very hot, lots of hard spots. So we've had to turn those out, and I've ended up taking 70 thou off the face of that. So what we've got to do is obviously then take 70 thou off the platforms here. But the problem is, when we've turned it round, they're actually bolts that go through the other way. So once you get these out, these platforms remove. So what I've had to do is set the platforms up in the lathe and remove 70 thou off the front of them, and then we can pump back in. So yeah, a bit of an odd one, that, guys, not just as straightforward as measuring the step and doing it all in situ. But yeah, bit of a strange one, that. So Paul, looks like some pistons on rods here.
The Jag pistons that turned up yesterday.
Right.
I've balanced them because they're a little bit out.
Yeah.
So they're all balanced with a gram each other. The rings are on them.
What were they out?
Well, they were out about 6 grams.
Oh, really?
That's quite a lot. So they're within a gram of each other now.
Yeah.
I can't get them exactly right because if I take too much metal out, we're going to start compromising the structure.
Okay.
So, but a road engine with a gram out and the pistons all over, it's not that bad at all. If it's a race engine, you want to bang on, but
yeah.
So
no, it's a big old long stroker, isn't it?
We're going to start putting the rods and the pistons in the hole.
Oh, so, lovely. So we've got the crank in.
Yeah, crank's in. Obviously, the timing gear's all in. So just need to get these piston rods in, and we can get the head on. So I've cleaned this bore and I've cleaned the crank journal. Yeah. And I always make sure, it's good practice to make sure the journal is as far away from possible. So the throw is on its, right
on the downstroke, basically.
Downstroke. So obviously, when you stick this piston in, you don't end up damaging the journal.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You can get those little, they call them condoms, don't they?
You can do, yeah.
From Crillos, on the end.
If you, like you say, if you put it on the downstroke, you can normally, once you get the piston in the top there, you can feel it and guide the big end onto the journal.
That's the one. So if we lube this piston up,
lube it up,
lube the rings, a nice bit of mineral oil, give it a good
nice coating,
and then give the rings a good coating. I always make sure the rings are offset on the holes. I mean, they do naturally rotate, don't they? But
they do, yeah. But it's always good practice to sort of set them a third away from each other, isn't it?
So we slide this bad boy over.
So that's your ring clamp.
I always make sure my thumb there, because what you don't want to do is when doing this clamp up, is you don't want the clamp to twist on the piston.
No.
So you can end up sort of twisting the ring. So you use your thumb to clamp it.
Yeah.
And then.
So what that does, if none of you know, that just clamps the rings. It sort of gives it like a false bore really, and then you put the skirt. You have the skirt sticking out the bottom of it, so the skirt can go into the bore.
So we put a little bit of lube on the bearing shell.
Yeah. Not to lube behind the shell, guys. Told you that before.
So these pistons have an arrow.
Right.
So what's it telling me to put the piston in? So the piston
arrow goes to the front. Yeah.
So if we carefully put that in.
Okay. So obviously with these blocks, because you've got the studs here, you've got to make sure that this bit is away from the stud area, so otherwise you won't be able to get it in.
You use your...
The ring clamp here sits on the top of the block.
So we just... So some firm
make sure,
taps.
so what Paul's doing is he's just tapping the ring clamp, make sure it's sitting on the block all the way around, otherwise when the rings get to that point they could pop out the side.
So we get some... There we go.
Look at that.
Boom.
Done like a pro.
Lovely. If we twist this bad boy around now. Nice heavy engine.
Oh, you all right there, mate?
Yeah. So just bring this one up.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
Lovely, mate. Almost like you've done it before.
Once or twice. And I'll always lube both sides of the bearing.
Yeah.
Make sure the bearing, the cap's going the right way. So obviously the rod caps are numbered each side.
Yeah.
So obviously that's one there and that's one there.
And obviously you mark the top anyway, so you normally we stamp the top of the cap here.
Obviously, and these are the same as the Cosworth yesterday. The tags on the bearing here match up. So
that's it, and you can see there where the tag's been sitting from original.
So slide that one on. That might need a small tap.
And then what Paul does is usually puts a stamp here to show that that is towards the front of the engine. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, we've done that, haven't we? And then lightly. And I'll torque these up now. I forgot what the torque settings. I have to look into the book.
Look in the book. There we go. Torque them up and do one at a time, Paul, in it, so you don't get confused.
I get confused easy, so
yeah,
could be could be bad. Connecting rod.
Got the good old Haynes manual out. That
37 foot-pounds. Beautiful.
Yeah, nice.
It's about right. So.
Yeah, it's about right. Usually this sort of stuff's around 40 foot-pound.
I always do it. Nip them both up.
So just nip them both up and then torque them both and then go and
then go back and
do
double
them
check.
again. Lovely job, mate.
Beautiful. And then each piston we put in, we'll turn the engine over a revolution just to make sure there's no tight spots.
Yeah. And then if you do get, it saves, because if you put them all in and then you end up turning it and you get a tight spot, you don't know which one it may be.
Yeah, you can narrow it down then.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get the rest of these in and don't see why we can't get this finished by sort of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because the head's done, so.
Lovely job. Well done, Paul.
Beautiful.
So guys, this is the Cosworth that we stripped Monday and we showed you Paul taking the crank out of, what have you. So first things first, I've spoke to the customer. He's more than happy with the state of it. He wants to go through it. He wants to make the engine sort of good for about 500 horsepower, possibly, although he wants to run about 400. So what I've suggested is he wants the 6 long studs. We're going to do that. Obviously going to bore it to 0.5 straight away, face the block, do the 6 long studs. He wants the BMW oil jets put into the underside, you know, the oil squirters for the pistons. That way then we can run a WRC pump, which is basically like a high pressure Pinto pump that they use on the later Escort Cosworth blocks, because they run oil jets as standard. So we're going to do that. That's the block done then. We've got this block over here, the one that we repaired the other day. So the customer wanted us to bore that to 0.5, face the block, and we're just going to finish hone it, and that is done for him then. So you see here, guys, we've got the Willys Jeep engine. We're cracking on with stripping that. We've got the crank out and all this. John's going to inspect everything. Isaac was obviously in yesterday and got this pretty much stripped. but he's in college today and tomorrow, so he's not going to be back till Friday to carry on with this. But I suspect that we're going to have to grind the crank, bore it, do all the usual with it as we do. But yeah, so far it's not looking too bad, to be honest with you. It's, you know, a standard sort of older engine. This one here, we're going to have a chat with Paul in a moment with this. You see he's got the cylinder head on the Jag, all the pistons in, the crank in, nearly everything's done on this really. All he's got to do is put the sump on. It's all gone smoothly there for him, but that's looking absolutely fantastic. But yeah, really, really pleased with the progress. So there we go, guys. You can see now the E-Type has all been done and it's on the pallet ready for the customer. I think they're getting their own rocker covers. They're going to go for the older style rocker covers on this as opposed to the new ones. So we haven't got to do anything to those. But as you can see there, that is looking absolutely like brand new, really, compared to what it was. So really, really happy with that. So in its replacement, we've now got the V8, the American V8 from out in the corner there, and we put that on the stand. So we're going to do a tear down of that. And hopefully in the next few videos, we can sort of show you the progress on that from start to finish, really. But in this one at the moment, completely unsure as to what's in there. So really interested to see what disasters we find, if any. Well, once again, guys, thanks ever so much for watching. Until another video, please like, subscribe, and we will see you in another one. You take care. Cheers, guys.